Peppermint everything, cookies everywhere, festive packaging on every product. Holiday foods are everywhere right now. They have been for a couple months, and they all seem to scream, "Buy me now. I'm only here for a limited time." But we don't really need to eat all of those things. Oftentimes we're just falling into the trap that marketers have set for us. So today in this episode, I want to talk about why holiday foods feel so irresistible, how marketers are tapping into our fear of missing out, and what you can do to kind of take back charge, take back control, to enjoy the foods that you want and that actually matter without feeling overwhelmed or overstuffed or out of control. Welcome back to the Hey Steph podcast. I'm Steph. I'm a holistic nutritionist and eating psychology coach, and I'm really happy to have you here listening, hanging out with me today. It's getting close to Christmas, and this is a topic that's been on my mind actually over the entire year. I started thinking about this last Christmas. If you listened to my episode last week, you know that I kind of love learning about and thinking about and studying and practicing minimalism. And there's a lot in those ideas about avoiding just consuming for consuming's sake. But once again, I felt something kind of trickle over into my food life. And last Christmas, I started recognizing how much of my purchasing decisions were being determined by marketing, by nostalgia, by not wanting to miss out, by positive memories I've had before and I want to make sure to have it again. And so I thought about this and I noticed this at Valentine's, at Easter, at Halloween, at all the times when we have special treats that are only available at that time, which I think we have at home. We have, the pies we only make at Thanksgiving, or, how many of us cook an entire turkey ever other than Thanksgiving? So there are holiday specific foods that we make ourselves, but more and more and more, I think we're experiencing this receiving end of extreme marketing, of extreme consumption. And I think it's making us sick physically, but also emotionally. I don't think it feels good to be kind of tricked into buying things all the time. So this comes from both a nutritional standpoint, but also like a psychological, emotional standpoint. And I think it matters. So I'm excited to talk about this today. I put up a question box on my Instagram stories yesterday. Actually, I'm recording this podcast on Sunday, the 15th. So yesterday on the 14th, I put a story up because I was sitting outside my backyard and I was thinking about, we had 2 Christmas parties yesterday. It was kind of a, that's the season that we're in right now. And I was thinking about the food I was going to eat. I don't know. I just sometimes sit there and think about food. And I had just had the night before gone on a date with my husband. We went out to eat. We got Torchy's tacos. So delicious. I love those tacos and that queso so much. And then we also got a Chick-fil-A peppermint shake. Add Oreos. My sister Cammie taught me that. It's the best decision ever. It was the first Chick-fil-A shake I had had this year, and it was the last. I knew that it was going to be this one annual thing, and I was really excited about it. And we got it, and it was delicious, and I totally enjoyed it, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I checked the box of that kind of nostalgia, of that positive memory. It was a fun experience, and then I was done. But it got me kind of thinking the next morning about how that had been a positive experience for me, but in years past, it hadn't. And there had been like time after time after time that I had eaten a Chick-fil-A shake, peppermint shake, searching for that positive experience, but not getting it because I wasn't ever intentional about making the decision. So I put up a question box and I was asking people what their struggles were around holiday eating. And I got some really good responses I want to read you. One person said, so much junk food everywhere and not readily available healthy foods. One person said, there are so many holiday foods I want, but they crowd out other options that might feel better to me. One person said, it's nostalgia and scarcity and lies. I can make any type of cookie any day of the year. I'm going to address that a little bit more in a few minutes. One person said, how to let myself enjoy the treats without going overboard and feeling terrible after. It feels like overindulgence is expected and promoted, and you're missing out if you don't do it. I loved that answer. So I think there's a lot of different struggles. There's actually another answer that I'm going to spend an entire other episode on next week about social eating situations, because I think there's so much that comes up around this time of social expectations and how those come into our food decisions. Today I want to kind of focus on the marketing and the psychological aspect of these food decisions that we make, not necessarily at holiday parties, but while we're shopping, while we're making food decisions, just on a day-to-day basis. So let's jump into talking about this scarcity mindset and holiday foods. If you've ever found yourself at the grocery store in, say, any time after October 1st, maybe, and all the things start coming out. And suddenly you feel like, oh, it's Christmas. I have to buy all the festive treats. I have felt like that a lot of times. And I think it's fun on one side of the coin, but on the other side of the coin, it feels like it starts earlier every year, which I listen to Christmas music in August, okay? So I'm not one of those like, let's push Christmas back till Thanksgiving. I think those people are heathens. Just kidding. I don't. But I love Christmas and I celebrate it in my heart and with my music early in the year. I don't like to celebrate it with my purchasing decisions until it's actually time. But I think it's really overwhelming. It's happening earlier. There's more options available to us. And I don't think it's about willpower. Marketers really are genius at creating a sense of urgency around holiday foods. And as I was studying for this episode, I found that this scarcity mindset is a real psychological phenomenon. Dr. Robert, and I don't exactly know how to say his last name, Cialdini, I think, a psychologist who actually has written a book that I own on my bookshelf called Influence, the Power of Persuasion. And he coined this term, scarcity principle of persuasion. I want to read you this quote I found in an article referencing this idea. The scarcity principle of persuasion, coined by Dr. Robert Cialdini, means the rarer or more difficult it is to obtain a product, offer, or piece of content is, the more valuable it becomes. Because we think the product will soon be unavailable to us, we're more likely to buy it than if there were no impression of scarcity. You can see this a lot of time in online marketing when there's countdown timers, or I have 5 spots in such and such program, or there's only 3 left. Sometimes you'll put something in your Amazon cart and it will say only 9 left. And you're like, oh my gosh, I better buy it right now before someone else snatches it up. The quote continues, the perceived scarcity can inspire a sense of urgency within consumers, and they make purchasing decisions faster than they usually might. People are also more willing to pay more money because a cost-benefit analysis might say that losing out on a product or service is worse than the money it costs to get it. I thought this was so interesting. We're making quicker buying decisions, more impulsive. We're not thinking through things. We're not being wise because we're just afraid of missing out. This FOMO kind of takes over our brain, this scarcity mentality. I have to get it now, no matter what it costs me. And not just what it costs me financially, but what it costs me physically, what it costs me in my food decisions down the road. If I buy this giant bag of chocolate covered whatever, Christmas whatever, at Costco, and I now have this in my pantry, I am now forced to make decision meal after meal after meal. Every time I open my pantry, I'm seeing it. So it's not just the cost, the $12.99 for the bag. It's that then we're paying for this over and over in our mental peace and our ability to make a rational decision. And we're putting all of that in the hands of these marketers without even realizing it, which I get. I mean, marketing is great. I'm a marketing director at the Book Incubator, the company where I work. I love marketing. I love studying it. And also being on the receiving end of that type of marketing, I'm like, I actually want to be the one in charge here. So that's what marketers are banking on at this time of year, is that, when the packaging has snowflakes and sparkles, and when there's a little sign on the label that says limited edition, it sparks something in us. Nostalgia, excitement, FOMO, and suddenly that food feels special, even maybe more special than it actually is. Like sometimes you buy the white chocolate peppermint pretzels and they're actually kind of cardboardy and overly sweet, but you bought them because you're like, oh, I loved these before. It feels fun. It's red and white and sparkly. A lot of these holiday foods though are not actually unique, like my friend said on the Instagram question box. They're not that different from what you can buy year round. They're just packaged differently to make you think that you need them right now. Those white chocolate peppermint pretzels or a giant tin of popcorn, are those really that different from the snacks you can grab in July or February? No, not at all. But the snowflakes and the Christmas vibes make us feel like they're special, and that's why we buy into it. So let's layer on another piece of this puzzle of marketing and our decisions, and that is decision fatigue. I think decision fatigue plays into this dynamic we have with holiday foods and also into overeating and over-consuming these foods. The holidays are full of food options. They're at parties, they're at the grocery store, they're in your pantry when you get hooked on this marketing. And the more decisions we have to make around food, the harder it becomes to feel in control. And when everything feels special, when every food seems nostalgic or every food is tied to holiday season, it becomes really overwhelming. You find yourself thinking, well, I should just eat the peppermint bark and the gingerbread cookies and the eggnog. And before you know it, you're eating everything. Not because you're hungry or even because you really love those foods, but because you don't want to miss out. Because it's Christmas and you're here and everyone's eating it and everyone's buying it and it's on sale and it looks fun and flashy. I think it's important to say here too is that it's impossible to say yes to everything. When you do in any area of life, you feel yucky. When it comes to saying yes to every food, you're going to end up feeling stuffed and stressed out, maybe guilty. So this is where a more intentional approach can come in and really save the day. You do not have to eat every festive holiday food just because it's available or even because it's what you've always done or what you did last year or because someone gives it to you or because it's on sale. I want to kind of shift into now this idea of reclaiming control and breaking free from this scarcity trap when it comes to holiday food. This is not just a Christmas thing. I think it's especially prominent right now, problematic, but I think it applies all through the year. So hold on to these little nuggets in the back of your mind for the coming year as well. So let's talk about what to do instead if we don't want to get stuck in this scarcity mindset and the overwhelm that accompanies it. How can we enjoy holiday foods without falling into the scarcity trap or feeling overwhelmed by all the choices? I want to give you 3 steps to try this week, this month, whenever you're in a situation like this. Step 1 is to pause and reflect. Think a little bit deeper. When you see that shiny festive package and the sparkly red whatever bow, or even a plate of cookies at a party, I want you to just take a second and pause and think, do I actually love this food? I mean, you're free to say yes to a food when you decide, but the important thing here is to decide. To you be the one that makes the decision, not just accept it because your food environment has handed it to you. Ask yourself, do I actually love this? Is this something I truly enjoy? Or am I grabbing it because it's only here for Christmas or it's only here for a limited time? Most of these foods, again, like I said, are not as unique as they seem. The white chocolate peppermint bark is just chocolate, right? With some red sprinkles. You can get that anytime. The sugar cookies with the little, Santa hat on it, they're just sugar cookies, which you can get any day of the year. They're not magic. Remind yourself that you have ongoing access to delicious food all year round. Every day of the year, those foods are available to you. Probably, unless you get stranded on a desert island, you are always going to have access to yummy, delicious treats. There's no scarcity. There is absolutely no scarcity here. The red bow might be going away, but the food itself is around. It's going to be here. I mean, please bless that our food environment changes a little and maybe those things are a little less prominent in our food environment. But we can get sugary treats literally anytime. You do not have to eat it all right now just because it's December. It's not special just because it's December. And I'm not saying don't eat the things, but there's a way to do it that feels good and feels in line with your integrity. So step number 1 is to pause and reflect. Step number 2 is to identify your non-negotiables. I talk about non-negotiables all the time. This is one of my favorite strategies for food, for habit and behavior change in general, and it's one I've been using for years. I learned it from my coach years and years ago, and it's stuck with me ever since. So instead of trying to eat everything or feeling like you have to eat everything, I think it's very helpful to decide in advance which holiday foods actually matter to you. What are your non-negotiables? And again, you have permission. You get to decide. You can say yes to things you don't love, but it feels so much more aligned to decide and then execute on that decision and not just be, tossed about by whatever's around you. It might be like some super special sugar cookies that this one particular family member makes. It might be something you make at home. I have these there's a food blog called The Salted Sweets, and she has some amazing cookies on there. There are 2 recipes in particular that I love and have made in Christmases past, and those feel special. Eating like a store-bought, I don't know, something at a party doesn't feel worth it to me. When I go to Costco and there's all these appealing, beautiful packages, I kind of psychologically put my blinders on of like, that's not my food. That's not for me. I already know the foods that I'm interested in. That's not what I'm here for. When it gets closer to Christmas and it's actually like, what are we going to eat on Christmas Eve? I might buy one or two of those foods that feel special. But I don't know, having the peppermint bark sitting in my kitchen in November just kind of ruins it, right? It kind of takes away the specialness. And again, it's falling prey to the marketing that makes it feel special, but when you actually think it through, there's no special occasion on a Tuesday in November. You can wait to buy that until it's actually Christmas, and it will feed into all the positive memories you have around that food instead of you feeling trapped by this food. You can leave it behind without feeling like you're missing out. So identify your non-negotiables. Make a list of your top favorite holiday treats, the ones that feel truly meaningful or bring you joy. This might be things you have really positive memories with in the past, like my Chick-fil-A peppermint shake. If I were to get that every single day in December, it would totally lose its meaning. But because I was intentional about that experience, it felt very positive and fun and zero guilt, zero regret, not even an ounce. I love that. I love that I was able to create that experience for myself by being intentional about that choice. So make your list of your top favorite holiday treats. This can be 2 or 3 or 10, or I don't care what the number is, but you be the one to decide and commit to enjoying those foods mindfully and loving them and creating a positive food experience, and then let the rest go. You don't have to eat everything in order to have a meaningful holiday season or to feel like you're participating in the holiday cheer of eating the yummy foods. And step number 3 is to talk yourself through it, be there, kind of self-coaching through that eating experience. I think it's so helpful to use logic to counter those impulsive, nostalgic feelings. When you're faced with a decision, when you're standing at the grocery store, I keep saying Costco because I think they're particularly good at this. And it's a place where I really start to think about like, wow, there's some really solid marketing strategies going on here. When you're in that position, there are a couple things to remind yourself of that might be helpful. You don't have to eat something just because it's there. All of these holiday foods will be back next year, or they're not actually that different from foods you can eat year-round. And you only have so many meals and snacks this season. Do you really want the majority of them to be made up of sugary treats? Like someone said in my Instagram question box, you'd rather save your appetite for foods that really matter to you and don't crowd out the other things that you actually do want to be eating. You don't want to be feeling like a garbage disposal all month long. That's a horrible feeling. But that's what happens when we give away our decision-making power to other people that don't really have our health and best interest at heart. They just have our money. And so you get to be more intentional about that and benefit all the way around. So it's this step 3 is all about being intentional. It's not about restriction. It's not about saying don't eat the peppermint shake or don't make the cookies or avoid all of the things. Be thoughtful. Make intentional choices that align with what you really want and will give you those holiday eating experiences that feel positive to you. The holidays should be about joy and connection and meaningful experiences, not about stress or guilt around food. It's really lame that this time of year, that for many of us, if you're a person of faith like I am, the goal really this season is to focus on Jesus Christ, on the reason for this season. And instead, it gets overrun, despite our best intentions, by marketing and consumerism and overwhelm and stress. And we have so much to do and things to buy and wrapping and to-do lists. And the good, peaceful, quiet things get crowded out. And it's really lame that happens with food. Because I do think there's so much power in these foods and in these food experiences to connect us with people we love, to give us these positive moments, part of this celebration of living in a body. It can be a really beautiful thing. And it's lame that it gets co-opted by excessive consumerism and just like buy, eat. No one stops to think or to take a minute and be like, what do I want? Is this contributing to me having a peaceful holiday? Probably not. So your mantra can be, I have ongoing access to delicious food all year round. I don't have to eat everything right now just because it's the holidays. So focus on what you truly love and just let the rest go. Give yourself permission to unhook your decisions from these marketing influences, and you decide what you want. You decide what feels good for you and do that. So, recap of these action steps for your little takeaway gems here. Number 1, make a list of your favorite holiday foods. Write them down. Commit to enjoying those foods fully and mindfully. Maybe you know when you're going to eat those things. Maybe you forget about a food and you write it down. You're like, oh yeah, I want to make that such and such, or I want to go find that special candy I used to get in my stocking as a child. Whatever it is, make those experiences happen for yourself. Have the excitement of looking forward to it and the pleasure of enjoying it. Number 2, start talking yourself through your food decisions. Use logic to counter that scarcity mindset and remind yourself that you can enjoy delicious food all year round. And number 3 is to set an intention for your holiday season. Decide what your food priorities are for the holidays, whether that's staying consistent with your health habits and setting some maybe tighter boundaries around what you eat or not. Maybe it's just being intentional about which treats you enjoy, loosening up a little bit. However you want to approach this, it doesn't matter, but the goal is for you to set the intention for yourself. I hope that feels helpful for you. If this episode hit home for you, I would love to hear about it. You're always welcome to send me a DM on Instagram. I'm there at HeyStephWebb. Tell me your favorite holiday food. Tell me how you're planning to stay intentional this season. I would love to chat with you. If you want more help creating healthy habits and building systems to support your goals, I'd invite you to check out my course called Anchor Down. That is where I teach you step by step how to make healthy living feel doable no matter what season you are in. And I also want to put in a little plug here. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you may not have seen, or maybe just, I don't know if the algorithm did not favor my content that day. I have been talking about my favorite planner. It's called the Nourished Planner, and Alexa, the creator of the planner, was so kind and generous and gave me a discount code. So if you're interested, you can go to thelivingwell.com/nourished planner. That's nourished with an ED at the end. And you can use the code HeySteph to get a discount on the planner. You can also go to Instagram and comment the word planner on any of my posts, and my little robot will send you the link and the discount code, so it will be super easy. I love my planner, and I'm super excited to have my 2025 one ready to go. I'm using it to plan my goals, and it's just such a great tool for helping me plan ahead and be intentional about living a healthy lifestyle. So I invite you to check it out if you like planners as much as I do. All right, remember, you don't have to eat all the things. You can enjoy the holidays without feeling overwhelmed or out of control, and I hope that you do. You've got this. Thank you so much for spending time with me here today, and I will see you next week.